Very well.
And welcome to another episode of the Philly BroCast. I'm your host, Ryan.
And I'm Ryan. What's up, bro?
Yeah, bro. What's going on tonight?
Nothing much. A little tired, but we're gonna fight through.
Oh, well, I'm glad that you're pushing through the pain.
I am.
Well, so
Like
noble of
Jordan.
you. Right, clearly. Well, we obviously have a lot to talk about tonight. Not only with the Eagles. If you've been living under a rock, Doug Pederson got fired yesterday. So there's that.
A new place to live.
Yeah, you probably. So we'll talk about potential replacements. For the first time in a long time, we are needing a head coach, an OC, and a DC. So we need all three major coaching positions to be filled. So it'll be interesting to see who may fill those roles. Obviously, the Flyers start regular season action tomorrow at the strangest of times, 5:30, against the hated rival Pittsburgh Penguins. So we'll talk about that. We'll talk about the 76ers and basically them being forced into playing through COVID, while other teams have the opportunity to get their games postponed. I guess nobody gives a shit about the Philadelphia 76ers. And then the Phillies, there's some rumbling and grumblings regarding some free agents, possibly talks heating up for Didi Gregorius to return to the team. I'd certainly be okay with that. Obviously, we're all still waiting on the JT news to break any day now, clearly. So we'll talk about all that, but let's get into Doug Pederson being fired. What was your initial reaction when you heard the news yesterday?
I was indifferent, to be honest. Wasn't upset, wasn't excited. Just from what I was reading and how Laurie and his conversations were going, they weren't seeming to be moving anywhere. It seems like this whole organization needed a shock to kind of wake us up, and getting rid of your Super Bowl winning head coach, only 4 seasons after he won it, is a bit of a shock and will wake some people up. So again, I wasn't too upset. I wasn't too excited. I was just kind of middle of the road about it, and not really surprised, to be honest.
Okay.
What about you?
Yeah, I was actually kind of shocked. I'm not going to lie. Obviously we've heard rumors and whatnot that it was a possibility, but I truly thought, man, you win a Super Bowl, you just missed the playoffs, or you just missed moving on in the playoffs the next year. And the year before, and you have a terrible year, granted. But I thought, Doug was at least given another year to right the ship. So I was a little shocked that he wasn't given that. And honestly, I didn't think Laurie had the balls to do it. I really didn't. Sure enough, he sure did. Now, if only he could take that gusto and do that with Howie, that would be nice, but I don't think Howie's ever going to leave the organization. He's got a lifetime contract.
Yeah, apparently.
Yeah, and he obviously has some serious dirt on Laurie. But I'm excited because I feel like the offense was pretty stagnant at times. The quarterback play was pretty poor for both quarterbacks. And I'm excited. Hopefully, they can bring in some, an innovative offensive guy to kind of respark this offense, because I feel like there are pieces here. They can be successful. We've seen it be successful. And, we have a lot of young, talented wide receivers that I feel like really need someone to kind of get them to that next level. and hopefully they can bring in somebody, at least in the head coaching position, if not the offensive coordinator position, to kind of help their careers. So,
yeah, I definitely would love to see that. Who would you be looking for in a head coach? Somebody more offensive minded or defensive minded?
so I personally would go for somebody offensive. Clearly it's an offensive league. The NFL just had its highest scoring season in history this past year, to which the Eagles were not a part of, obviously. So, I really truly believe they got to bring in somebody offensive. That's why there are certain names being thrown out there right now. Arthur Smith, offense coordinator of of the Tennessee Titans. Brian Dable from the Buffalo Bills, offensive coordinator there. Somebody like Lincoln Riley, a very successful, innovative offensive mind coming from the college ranks. Obviously has the Hurts connection there. So I feel like that would be very telling should Lincoln Riley get the job. And in fact, from what I've gathered, Lincoln Riley, Arthur Smith, Todd Bowles, the defensive coordinator in Tampa, former Jets head coach, former Eagles assistant, and Robert Saleh, I'm not sure how to pronounce it. Saleh, from the defensive coordinator from San Francisco 49ers, have all been requested to be interviewed, or at least reached out to. So I think that's a good start. But again, if I'm picking, I'd choose offensive minded rather than defensive. How about you?
Okay. In that, me personally, I was thinking defensive minded. One of the things that the Eagles have struggled with of late, besides our run defense, has been our overall defense. Stopping people from scoring. If there's one thing that we've noticed, it's that they'll start the game late, if you will, almost kind of not doing anything until the second half and playing catch up. Well, I would rather go into halftime up by 3-0 than down 21 to 15 or something like that. Just because you would be limiting the momentum for another team. And like you said, it is a very offensive friendly or offensive minded league right now. But some of the better teams that have made it so far have really good defenses. So, it's one of those things. It's kind of half and half, really, because you got somebody like Green Bay who really doesn't have the best defense, but can put up tons of points and score in clips. And then you have someone like the Bills who's kind of a little bit more balanced, but they have a really great defense. So it's kind of tough, but I personally was thinking defense. But one of the names that I kind of want to see up there, and it's not a flashy name, and it's somebody in the organization already, would be Deuce Staley. Here's my reasoning. So, yes, that is the general, response to when I say that. But familiar with the players, everybody loves him. Familiar with the organization, has been under 3 head coaches with Philadelphia.
Yep.
So obviously he had to have been taking notes at some point during his tenure there, compiling his own offensive playbook, if you will, and also is well known in the organization, like I was saying, and he's a fan favorite too. People love Deuce. So, I mean, you don't really go based off what the fans want, obviously, but I do like the fact that he has the respect and camaraderie with a lot of the guys in the locker room and what he's been around to see. Plus, it wouldn't be too tough to get him. Not many people are looking for him.
So I get all that. I really do. But let's remind everyone, Deuce is a running backs coach of a team that doesn't really run the ball much. And let's be honest, I think people are more enamored with the name, the former player. That's why you have people saying, "Oh, we should hire Seth Joyner as defensive coordinator. Let's bring in Brian Dawkins to be the deep backs coach." Like, no, they're not coaches. Like, that's not how it works. And I get Deuce has certainly put in his time. That doesn't necessarily mean he's ready or should just be given the keys to a head coaching job. It's rare when a positional coach jumps up to head coach. And there's a reason for that. The fact of the matter is he wasn't calling plays, obviously, as we know. I would feel more comfortable if somebody said, we bring in a head coach and somebody says, "Hey, you know what, Deuce, you want an UBO coordinator?" I'd be okay with that. It wouldn't be my first choice for sure. I'd still rather go outside the organization. And I think that's what my main point is I don't want anybody that has ties to the Eagles. I don't want anybody that's familiar with jack shit with this team. I need somebody that has no idea about things and comes in and does it a different way. Because I'm sick and tired of the Andy Reid retreads. Mike Kafka's name has been brought up. Former Eagle under Andy Reid right now, the quarterback's coach, blah, 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 blah. I don't want him anywhere near the organization, honestly. And I know everybody loves Eric Bieniemy, and I'm sure he'll make a fine coach, and he's a very, very good coach. I don't want him either. I don't want anybody under Andy Reid, honestly. I don't want anybody who's had any Andy Reid influence. I want something completely different, out of left field, that could come in and change the way we do things, because the way we do things have sucked. The Flyers used to do that all the time, and that was their problem. They would always bring in Ed Snyder guys, and they would do it Ed Snyder way, and it would be the same freaking team and the same thing over and over and over and over again. Until finally, God rest his soul, Ed Snyder died, and they finally were able to break out of that. And that's, I think, what's happening right now is we're stuck in this mindset that Jeffrey Lurie has that, oh, well, we had success with Andy. Let's bring in Andy guys. Let's do that. Let's do that. Let's do that. No, I'm done with it. We're done with Andy Reid. I'm sorry. I love the guy. He did great. I'm happy he won a Super Bowl in Kansas City, but I want something new. I want something different. I don't want anything that has any familiarity with the Philadelphia Eagles. Just don't.
Understood. So a couple things. A, Doug Pederson was really, part of that coaching tree and Super Bowls. Clearly, you do like that.
Well, I don't.
Obviously, well, you have to like that. You like winning a Super Bowl. You're shocked that Doug Pederson left. So clearly, if he left or got fired, you're upset about it, and that's an Andy Reid guy. So
I'm not upset.
Much sense. B, Doug Pederson can be. Or I'm sorry, Deuce Staley can be like a John Harbaugh, who's more of a game manager with an offensive and defensive coordinator. Again,
I don't think he did a good job managing the run game. So
well, again, he managed the players and did a pretty good job managing and getting some good running backs, at least prepared. And it was up to Doug to use them. Not Deuce.
So basically, Deuce was the running back's friend.
And he was more than just the running back's friend. He was a lot of the players' friend, and he has a lot of their respect. And that's one thing. That's one thing you can't just come in and get.
I fully agree. But
and that's one of the big things that they said Doug Pederson lost was the players' respect.
I agree. And to rebuttal your comments, I'm not upset that Doug Pederson's gone. I just didn't think he would have the balls to do it. And yes, I am very grateful for the Super Bowl. But the more and more we are removed from the Super Bowl, the more and more I'm convinced that it was just, honestly, just everything in the universe aligned. Everything went our way. Even when things looked bad, we somehow figured it out. And I don't necessarily think that was Doug Pederson. I would not give a majority of the credit to Doug Pederson. That being said, like I said, we've had too much of the Andy Reid influence on this team, and as much as I like Deuce, Deuce certainly a fan favorite. I don't see anything that he's done that he deserves to be our offensive coordinator, much less our head coach. Everybody's been clamoring for this guy to be the offensive coordinator for the last couple of years, and there's a reason why he hasn't been. I'm not inside the organization. I don't know specifics.
Isn't the reason because Doug wanted to call the offensive plays?
I mean, perhaps that's it. But perhaps they didn't really give Deuce much to do. Maybe it was just, hey.
I wanted to call the offensive plays.
What was that?
Because Doug wanted the reins in that manner. He didn't want anybody to tell him what to call.
I mean, I agree. But I think if he had to choose right now, if Doug was still on this team, the rumors were that he was wanting Press Taylor to be the offensive coordinator, not Deuce.
I know. I heard that.
So what does that tell you? Press Taylor's a very average positional coach, and probably won't have a job once we hire a head coach. So what does that tell you? It tells you that Deuce Staley wasn't ready to be the offensive coordinator of this team. And I'm not saying he'll never get a chance. And I'm not saying that somebody might not pick him off this offseason. And if that happens, I'll be a little sad. Sure. I like having Deuce around. But I like Deuce where Deuce is. I think at best, Deuce was kind of in charge of the rotation. And I wasn't necessarily a fan of the rotation. So, like I said, I hope and wish Deuce the best. I just don't know what more he'll ever accomplish with the Philadelphia Eagles.
Understood. I mean, you can't really accomplish much if you're just sitting in one spot. But, yeah, I guess there's either he was never given the opportunity or he hasn't taken the initiative to reach for that opportunity. So I can
understand. It's known that he doesn't have the ability to succeed in that opportunity. I don't know which it is.
Exactly.
It very well could be he just was never given an opportunity to show exactly what he can do.
Yeah.
So I can only speculate, and I'd rather have somebody who's done it, who's had a little more experience than a running back rotation to run, the offense. I mean, people are talking Deuce for head coach here, and I think it's absolutely silly. What has he proven that he can run an offense, much less an entire team? I mean, I get the respect factor, but that only goes so far. You got to have the knowledge. You got to have the ability.
Yeah, and I mean, again, like where people are coming from, or from the fact that he hasn't been, sitting in the locker room, not like playing video games. He's been on the sideline watching every game, watching all the coaches do what they do. So it's everybody. You're assuming that he's not like watching the game and know how it goes.
I'm not saying that. I'm not saying Deuce is sitting over there twiddling his thumbs or playing on Facebook when the game's on. I'm just saying. Sometimes people are what they are.
They are what they thought they were.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
So, all right. So moving on. Okay, so obviously it's going to be very dependent on who we hire as an offense or on a head coach side of thing. But I want to talk about the defensive coordinator because, again, I think it's more likely we hire an offensive guy, probably like 60-40. But so if that's the case, we're going to need to bring in somebody here, defensive coordinator style. Have you any names you've heard that you're liking, or anything like that? What do you think?
I kind of thought the Todd Bowles choice would have been a decent choice, considering that he didn't do well in the Jets organization. Being nominated to do, but yeah,
right.
If presented an opportunity, I would hope that he would take it if he didn't gain a head coaching position.
Right.
So I kind of like that name. And then again, like apparently the Jets really like Salah, so that was a name that I obviously would like for defensive coordinator, but lateral movement is not really in his future. It's moving on
Right.
up. So.
Yeah, I think Salah has literally interviewed with every open head coaching position, or at least been requested to at this point. So,
yeah,
yeah,
I mean, when you have success in your organization, you got to start grooming your next guy. Once you see like somebody like a Frank Reich, once we saw how effective he was and great that it was to have him on our sideline, you had to imagine like if really you're thinking about the future of your team, this guy's gone.
Yeah.
Like he was going to get picked up immediately. I don't even think it would have been a struggle for someone to pick him up, even if we didn't win the Super Bowl. I think just making the playoffs, he would have been gone. So something like that.
I mean, that's the problem when you have success. Everybody wants to pick your positional coaches, your coordinators, and it's a tough to have a solid staff year over year. I think that's obviously the players coming in and out are a big impact, but I feel like a lot of people don't truly realize the impact that constantly revolving coaches can have on a team. As far as D coordinators, I was kind of hopeful for somebody like a Gus Bradley, who unfortunately is now going to the Las Vegas Raiders. Somebody like John Butler, I think, would make a great D coordinator. He is a defensive backs coach for the Buffalo Bills. They've certainly had great success with their defensive backs. Speaking of San Francisco, should Salah move on, I know San Fran is very interested in making D'Amico Ryans their defensive coordinator. But I certainly would love to have him here. He's very, he's obviously a former linebacker. May I love my linebackers. Maybe that would translate to drafting Micah Parsons. I'd be okay with that. So that's another name. Chris Richards, former Seattle coordinator, former Dallas Cowboy passing game coordinator 2 years ago. I think he just took a year off. He's still very young. That would be certainly something great to bring in. Obviously Dan Quinn, I think, just went to Dallas. So that's certainly a great move for them. Hopefully the Eagles have something lined up because, they got to get this head coach now so that they can fill in the coordinators and fill out the rest of the team, or the coaches, I should say, because, obviously a head coach is going to want to bring in his guys, whether it's, his coordinators, his positional coaches, whatever, he's got to fill those roles. And I think there could be a lot more changes coming once we, get the head coaching position filled.
Yeah. And then offensive coordinator, who you thinking about?
Well, again, I think, if we end up with an offensive coach, I could very well see, one of the positional coaches that would come over for, from that team, from underneath that coach, to kind of come over and fill that role, just because, he already knows the system and whatnot. But if, say we end up with a Todd Bowles or a Salah or whoever, a defensive-minded head coach, there's a couple of good guys, out there that, I wouldn't hate on to look for offensively. I would assume that somebody like Deuce should absolutely be in that conversation. First and foremost, just, so we can squash that narrative that this guy hates Deuce Staley.
Oh, no, it's all right. I just posted it all over every social media platform possible that you hate and would never want Deuce Staley on your team as a coach.
That is unfortunate for me.
The 7 people that follow me are like, "Oh, curse you."
Yeah, Deuce Staley's gonna reach out and be like, "What's up, bro?" So, you know, I feel like there's, obviously Deuce Staley, but I feel like, somebody like a Jim Caldwell, former head coach of the Colts, had been talked about, last season as a potential. Should, obviously Doug decided not to. Somebody like Graham Harrell, USC offensive coordinator from last year. I think the Eagles actually attempted to try and bring him onto the staff. Somebody maybe like obviously Bill O'Brien is looking like he's going to sign on with Alabama, so he's kind of out. Jay Gruden, former Washington head coach. I believe he was just in Jacksonville as their offensive coordinator, but since Doug Marrone's gone, it's very likely that he'll be gone as well. Just, generally when you hire a new head coach, you get new coordinators. Potentially Mike Kafka.
Yeah. I keep hearing that name as well, but again, like you were saying, the familiarization with the organization isn't always what you want. It's
right.
You don't want to be desperate either. These aren't like moves we should be making out of desperation. They should be calculated and very educated moves. And I hope that they're doing the research and planning properly, because we don't want a one and done coach. We aren't the Jets. We aren't the Jaguars, or these teams that just have been basement dwellers.
Right.
We are perennial playoff team, and it's just frustrating that things haven't worked out the way that we hoped and planned when 2017 happened, because we knew when 2017 happened, you were going to lose some of the older guys on the team.
Right.
You were hoping that the plan was to continue with most of your team, your core guys, your core coaches, your core everything,
right,
and just continue, just move along.
The new norm.
Succeeding, yes. I mean, like Pete Carroll and the Seahawks, they can be, at the top, but they're still making the playoffs, doing the damn thing. I mean, every year it's the NFC West, and you think, all right, the Seahawks are in contention no matter what. So that's the type of team that I want the Eagles to be. But I mean, like we talked about last week, it's tough with the amount of money that we have. What was it, $30 million in dead money? And
well, yeah, I'm not sure off the top of my head what the dead money is, but we're roughly around 50 over right now.
From what I understand, it's like a league record for dead money that we're about to have.
Well, especially if we decide to move on from Carson, that absolutely will be. And Carson himself would I believe be the record for one individual player's dead money. Should we move on from Carson? Yeah, that would be just like the Eagles to break those records.
Oh yeah, of course.
We broke a record.
I was at the 10,000th loss for the Phillies. It was against the Cardinals. Albert Pujols hit 2 or 3 home runs that game.
Yeah, I remember that. I think it was 3.
But I mean, it was so much fun to be there.
I'm sure.
We were all celebrating. Obviously, it's nothing you really should be celebrating. But I mean, when the team's around for that long, you had so many bad years. What are you gonna do? What can you do?
I mean, exactly. It's one of those things where you're just like, oh well, at least I'm here for something, right?
But it's like you're saying, it's a very Philly thing to have happen.
No, it absolutely is.
It
It is, regardless of whether it's negative or positive. It's always fun to be a part of some history. I was actually there at Kevin Millwood's no hitter in 2003. In fact, I remember I was living with two buddies of mine at the time, and I believe it was a Sunday game, and we had tickets. Obviously, we were in our 20s. Went a little too hard the night before, and we're all just kind of like, I don't think we want to go. Like, blah, blah, blah. Well, whatever. Regardless, we somehow got our butts moving and actually went to the game, and man, it sure turned out pretty good. But
I was in ninth grade, and I don't think I was allowed out on a Sunday night.
Oh boy. Well, speaking of, let's talk a little Fly Guys real quick before we get on out of here. First game's tomorrow. Can't wait. As I've mentioned, it's at a super weird time of 5:30 against the Pittsburgh Penguins. And the opening roster is set. Looks like Morgan Frost is on the team. Looks like he'll probably be that 12th or 13th forward, which is pretty cool.
Yeah.
And I believe I never knew you could actually designate home and away alternate captains. This is new to me. So new this year, obviously, Claude Giroux being the captain. Sean Couturier is what's called a permanent alternate. And then the permanent home alternate captain would be Ivan Provorov, the young defenseman. So anytime they're on a home game, it'll be Claude Giroux, Couturier, and Provy. And then when they're on the road alternate captain will be split between Kevin Hayes and Jake Voracek. So I don't understand any of this. This is weird.
So every other game, it'll be between Hayes and Voracek.
Yeah. Basically, they're gonna flip a coin, I guess, for each.
That'd be hilarious. I think they should start their own Instagram page for just the coin flip.
Right? Wouldn't that? Because I assume you have to break out the correct sweater with the A on it.
Oh yeah.
So that would be a great in the locker room, 2, 3, shoot.
Yeah.
Right before they go on, throw on the sweater, tap the A, and head on out. That would be cool as that. I'll reach out to them and tell them to do it.
Good. Thank you.
Yeah. So obviously the defensive pairings. There's 8 defensemen on the squad. Philip Myers, Sanheim, Haig, obviously Provy, Ghost, Eric Gustafson, Mark Friedman, and then of course Justin Braun. I'm liking their their defenders. Sam Morin was moved from the defense to left wing. Unfortunately, he wasn't on the opening roster. He's on what's called the taxi squad with a few other young prospects, just in case injuries and whatnot, and God forbid a case COVID. I'm pretty happy with the way the roster, especially the offense. I mean, I'm not sure how they're going to pair up the lines yet, but I'm looking at it, and I assume Morgan Frost probably is going to be the healthy scratch to start, but Konechny, Raffle, Hayes, Couturier, Nolan Patrick is back and healthy, which is great. Lindblom is healthy and back. Lawton, Van Riemsdyk, Giroux, Farabee, Voracek, Kubel.
JVR is a guy that I'm watching. He's not old in any respect.
Oh,
and he needs to be consistent.
Right.
He needs to be. Last year he was inconsistent. He had great moments, great games, but not consistently. And that's a guy that needs to step up.
I agree. So hopefully, hopefully they can put the lines right together. And honestly, I'm really liking the offense here, and I'm excited for Frost to get some opportunity, to get out there and really prove what he can do. I'm not sure exactly how long it may take for him to crack into the lineup, but he's a young kid and he's got mad skills and really I think can provide a spark. And hopefully, obviously in the playoffs we kind of puttered and died offensively. So that's one thing I certainly want is that offensive spark to return. Have Konechny, coming back and scoring some goals. I'm hoping we get, at least 30 goals out of him, if not more. So I'm excited. I'm not gonna lie. I love the Fly Guys. So I'm really
that's one of my 2021 resolutions is to really follow. Just kind of just be a bigger fan of the Flyers, if you will. Kind of slacked in the past, ever since the Richards, Carter, Giroux years. Kind of just watch this team either fall apart or attempt to rebuild and go between coaches and management and all this stuff. And you're like, all right, now that I've trusted the process, I'm glad to see where we're at right now. Got your goaltender, hopefully goaltender of the future, and a team that has a nice balance of effective veterans and promising youngsters. And I really need to I really want to buckle down and follow these guys.
Listen, you're more than welcome to come on over. We can watch Flyers hockey anytime.
Okay. All right.
So moving on, lastly, before we get on out of here, I wanted to really quick, talk a little bit of the Sixers and what the NBA is doing right now. The Sixers had, Seth Curry, get what did he officially get COVID or was it?
From all I understood, it was contact tracing.
COVID, right? Contact tracing, right? That's what I thought. But there were still people out, and the Sixers ended up having 7 players, even though technically, 2, Embiid and Simmons were out for other injuries. But the NBA basically made them play. They're continuingly to limited numbers, while other teams, Celtics, Orlando, Washington, all these other games are being postponed, and it's like, what's the harm? You were at a disadvantage, and you're making us play these games, and then they went out and fined the 76ers $25,000 for not disclosing Ben Simmons' injury properly. Are you kidding me? So you're going to screw us, and then you're going to charge us? What is that crap? NBA, get your head out of your ass. Realize that you need to protect the players and suspend some of these games until you get this shit right. It's not hard. It's not hard.
No.
Err on the side of caution.
It leans back towards, does the NBA still have a target on the Sixers for tanking? I mean, it was an unabashed, unshameful tank. And they let everyone know they were doing it. So the NBA still has a little chip on their shoulder just simply because we stuck it to them.
That's not right. I don't like that shit one bit.
I don't either. But
Adam Silver can kick rocks at.
It's a conspiracy theory.
Well, I can't wait. If I ever meet him, I'm gonna throw something at him. A large tomato. So while the 76ers figure themselves out, they're obviously going to be at a huge disadvantage. So hopefully they can get these players back soon. Hopefully Ben and Joe will get a little bit healthier as well to rejoin the team, and they can again reclaim their top spot in the East as they were pretty dominant so far this year.
Is Jimmy Buckets playing tonight?
I'm sorry.
Is Jimmy Buckets playing tonight for the Heat?
Let's see. I thought that game got postponed now.
No, it's on at 7.
Huh.
Isn't it? I mean, that's what my app told me.
Oh wait, they're playing the Sixers tonight, aren't they?
The Heat and Sixers, yeah, they're playing.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
If he's playing,
yes, Jimmy Butler and Goran Dragic, Mo Harkless, Udonis Haslam are all out due to health and safety protocols.
Oh, he is out.
Yep.
Okay.
And let's see. Seth, Toby, Furkan, Shake, Vincent Poirier, and Matisse Thybulle are all out.
Yep.
Ben and Joel are probable at this time.
Yep.
So there's reports that Ben is basically sitting out to be cautious with this COVID thing. And I don't blame him. I don't blame a beat either if that's kind of the same thing. He has a young child. I don't blame anybody one bit. So
understood. Yeah, definitely.
Oh well. What are you gonna do? Hopefully everybody back and
the whole team can sit out, or like there's certain events that cause that to happen. I'm not going to relate or try and say anything about the certain events that cause players to sit out of games last year. Right. But it can happen. It's been done. So
for sure. So and one last thing before we get on out of here. Phillies have reached out to Didi Gregorius, and apparently the Heat's the talks are heating up slightly. So that would be a nice step. There's also small rumblings about George Springer come play outfield. These are all great things, but obviously we still have number one, JT, on our minds. So hopefully, Dombrowski gets things figured out, and we can go ahead and sign JT one of these days.
Did you know the Mets are also in talks with Springer?
Yes, I've heard that as well. That's crazy.
Not good.
The Mets have too much money to burn right now.
They have too much talent on their team right now. They just got way better.
They did. So, yeah.
Exactly. The pitching staff is insane.
Oh, it is. I know. It's the Mets are going to be certainly big-time players this year, I think, especially if they keep adding. So, but that'll do it for us. We went our 45 minutes right on the dot. Ryan, do you got anything to add before we get on out of here?
No, not really. Yeah, I thought I did, but I don't.
Nope, I lost it. All right, well, that's it for us. Thank you guys so much. I will see you guys next week. Obviously, Monday for the Football Smack Talk show at 6:00. Every Tuesday, 6:15 for the BroCast. So check us out. Make sure that you check out NSN Philly on Facebook and at Notoriety Sports on Twitter and Instagram. Make sure you follow, like, share, do all that great stuff. All over. So that's it for us. Thank you guys. We'll see you next week. So for the Philly BroCast, I'm Ryan.
I'm Ryan as well.
Good night, Chris. Have a good night. See you next week. I want to say go Birds, but I can't.
I know. It's so sad.